Hey guys, Karan Bidani from Hobby Scrub here, and we'll be comparing the Zenfone Max Pro with the Redmi Note 5. Xiaomi has been leading this segment for quite some time, but with Asus launching the Zenfone Max Pro, it definitely changes the game. Let's quickly compare the specs first, and then we'll talk about the pricing and everything else. So let me just highlight the real differences here. The Zenfone Max Pro has a more recent processor, it's got the latest version of Android, it's got a dual camera setup, 25% larger battery. It's got a better GPU, so the gaming is definitely going to be better on the Zenfone Max Pro. They both weigh the same, they're almost of the same size, and they got the same display. In terms of pricing, both of them come in two variants, and both of those variants cost almost the same. The difference is so negligible, but in exchange you get a better camera, face unlocking, 25% larger battery, faster processor, and the latest version of Android in the Zenfone Max Pro. That's pretty much the summary of things, and that should tell you that the Zenfone Max Pro is already a better device. A couple of other smaller differences include the fact that the Zenfone Max Pro is running the latest version of Android 8.1.0, whereas the Redmi Note 5 is still running the Android 7.1.2 Nougat. In addition, the Max Pro has a triple slot tray which can house 2 SIM cards and 1 microSD card simultaneously. The microSD card storage can be expanded by 2 terabytes, that's 2000 gigabytes. And when it comes to the Redmi Note, it has a hybrid slot which can house either 2 SIM cards or 1 SIM card and 1 microSD card, expandable to just 128 gigabytes. So that's a huge difference. Then coming to the build quality and the design. Now, while both the devices are almost equal in size, the thickness and the weight is somewhat different. Despite the fact that Zenfone Max Pro has a 25% more battery capacity, it weighs exactly the same as the Redmi Note 5. But that extra battery capacity makes the Zenfone Max Pro slightly thicker by 0.4 mm to be precise. But really, in terms of use, feel and overall ergonomics, both the devices feel exactly the same to me. The Zenfone Max Pro also features Face Unlock as a security feature that's missing in the Redmi Note 5, though both have the fingerprint sensor, and I feel it's going to be the more widely used unlocking method than the face unlock. The displays are quite same, and hence I'm not going to focus much on that. Both of them have a 6-inch IPS LCD display with a resolution of 1080 pixels by 2160 pixels, lending an 18:9 widescreen ratio. Now, it's quite sharp, right? The resolution is pretty high, and both of the displays are very sharp. Now let's talk about the performance here, because that's a tricky one. Both of them have the Snapdragon processors, but the Redmi Note 5 has a slightly higher clock, which is at 2 GHz, whereas the Zenfone Max Pro has a 1.8 GHz clock. Does that mean that the Zenfone is slower? Actually not. It's got a more recent Snapdragon processor which is much more efficient and has a better GPU. It features the Adreno 509 as compared to the 506 which is in the Redmi Note 5, which means that the gaming performance and overall performance, as you also saw in the benchmark test, for the Zenfone Max Pro is higher and hence better. Launching and closing of apps or juggling between them is pretty much the same on both, but if I were to lay my bets, I think the Zenfone Max Pro would do a better job in the longer run. Lastly, the big one is the camera. The Zenfone Max Pro features a dual camera setup with a 13 megapixel camera combined with a 5 megapixel camera, single LED flash, capable of shooting 4K videos and 1080p videos at 60 FPS, along with depth effect pictures. The Redmi Note 5 has a single 12 megapixel shooter with dual LED flash, also capable of shooting 4K videos and 1080p videos, but only at 30 FPS. Now here are some samples that I took using both the cameras, and I think the Zenfone Max Pro definitely does a better job of rendering more natural looking pictures. The Redmi Note 5 has a slightly warmer tone to it, and it just makes the image look a little bit more washed out, except for in this where the Redmi Note 5 actually did a better job. You can see that the lighting is better in this case. However, when it comes to darker shooting modes, the Zenfone Max Pro actually makes it slightly warmer, though it is still brighter than the Redmi Note 5. Even when it comes to capturing colors, I think the Zenfone Max Pro definitely did a much better job. The lighting is a lot better even indoors. And see how in really dark shooting conditions, the Zenfone Max Pro makes it warmer than the Redmi Note 5. And these are just two images taken using the Zenfone Max Pro for the depth effect. So all in all, if I really had to buy a budget smartphone, it'll probably be the Zenfone Max Pro. For the price, it offers quite a few cutting-edge features like dual camera, fingerprint, and face unlock, 4K video recording, massive 6-inch Full HD display, a mind-blowing 5000 mAh battery, and a decent performing processor. Over the Redmi Note, it gives you more battery life, face unlocking, 60 FPS Full HD video recording, dual camera, the latest Android 8.1.0, and a better performance overall. Definitely a clear winner over the Redmi Note 5.